As World Dairy Expo comes to a close, it is known for its cattle competition, showcasing new technology. It did hit kind of a serious note, though, earlier this week. Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue listened and answered concerned farmers and dairy officials at a town hall meeting. Many in the audience touched on issues like the trade war, declining milk prices, and surviving in an industry that is competing with so-called non-dairy milks. When asked if Wisconsin dairy farms will survive, Perdue said yes, but that farms may have to get bigger to do so.
It's very difficult on an economy of scale with the capital needs and all the environmental regulations and everything else today to survive milking 40, 50, 60, or even 100 cows. And that's what we've seen. What we've seen is the number of dairy farmers go out, but the dairy cows haven't reduced that much. Those cows have not gone to slaughter, they've gone to someone else's herd.
Perdue called the 2018 Farm Bill, signed in December, a positive for the industry. He said it provides more protections than previous legislation, including improvements to risk management and an increase in dairy prices. I will have much more from World Dairy Expo on upcoming episodes of Midwest Farm Weekly. New rules published this week would slash the number of federal inspections at pork slaughterhouses and allow plants to speed up their production lines.
By increasing line speeds, they are going to sacrifice the health and safety of 90,000 pork slaughter workers across this country.
As you heard, labor activists and consumer activists say that the Department of Agriculture is endangering millions of Americans, both those who work at these pork processing plants and the consumers who eat the products. The Department of Agriculture says the inspection changes will save millions of dollars and improve food safety, relying on processors to inspect themselves. For now, these rules are set to go into effect December 2nd. The window of time is shrinking to get your crops off the field and manure on them before a hard freeze. I've talked with quite a few producers who've joked, saying they could get into their fields just fine, but getting out is another story. The rain has led to these extremely wet and muddy conditions. Our own Aaron Taylor spoke to one local farmer who says this year has really been off track since the start.
As rain falls on the farm, some operations are underway as usual, but others have been brought to a standstill.
It's just depressing in a way, that we just can't ever get anything done.
Fields of corn almost ready to harvest if the rain ever lets up.
We've got all of our equipment lined up ready to go, and we just got to sit there and wait for what Mother Nature deals with us and plan for the worst case scenario.
Rain already delayed the crop at the front end of the season.
We've had a late start because of all the wet weather that we had earlier this spring, so it delayed planting by about 30 days.
And now, about a week away from the corn being ready to harvest, everything is wet.
We got the rainwater's on the plant right now, so we're waiting for that to dry out, and then we have to deal with the field conditions as far as all the mud goes.
They need those conditions to dry up and fast.
We're up against it because we need that for feed for the cows. It's a tough situation here all over the Midwest because it's wet all over. We've had hay shortages, and we're dependent on this corn to help stretch us out throughout next year.
They're in a tough spot that will only get more difficult as the wet weather continues.
Our best case scenario is it stops raining today, the sun shines, and windy days to help dry things out.
Because in order for this dairy farm to operate,
cows got to eat.
In Greenleaf, Aaron Taylor, Local 5 News.
Corn is now roughly 22 days behind last year across the state of Wisconsin. Only 8% of farmers are reporting a mature crop. Results of a recent corn dry-down day in Door County showed most of their crop is still well above 70% for moisture content. A few farms were getting close to ideal harvest numbers, but they planted in May compared to a majority of corn that didn't get in the ground until June.
It's definitely delaying a crop that's already in the ground significantly later than we're used to every year. So we're going to see, hopefully, some people getting into the fields before it gets into the frost. But if we get a frost and the corn isn't mature yet, that's the real big thing that we're worried about, is not getting a mature corn kernel in that silage before they have to get it off the field.
Statewide corn silage harvest is roughly 15% complete. There is an app you will want to have installed on your phone before heading into the field. Silage Snap could make a difference to your bottom line.
I noticed that everybody takes corn silage and harvest it, and they send a sample off to the lab. The lab comes back about a week later and tells them how well they did chopping. By that time, with the machines we have today, the crop is harvested, and it's probably too late to do anything about it.
So Brian and his students came up with a solution using a smartphone.
Usually the way producers do it now is they take a cup of corn silage, they dump it out on the tailgate, give it a good shrug and say, yes, it's good, no, it's bad, and make an adjustment.
The Silage Snap app allows you to get real-time data on your harvest to adjust your kernel processing on the go.
You take the corn kernels then, dry them off a bit, set them on a matte black background.
Then you place a quarter in the middle and take a picture.
And we're able to know the sizes of those, therefore we know the size of everything else in the image. You take a picture with a phone, and within probably 5 to 10 seconds you have a result on whether your kernel processor is doing its job properly or not.
So why is it important to make these adjustments?
A lot of power going through the machine is being used to push 12 to 14 rows of corn through a 2 millimeter or less gap, right? So being able to open that up a bit and maintain kernel processing, which is just breaking the corn kernels down into smaller pieces so the cows can digest them better. If you're able to open that up a bit, your efficiency in harvest is going to go up. You're either able to go faster through the field and get the harvest done in a more timely manner, or you're able to save on fuel by not running that power through that kernel processor. In the barn, if we get our kernel processing correct, obviously the cows are able to digest the corn a lot more easily, which means direct benefits to cow health and milk production.
The Silage Snap app is totally free. It's available for download on Apple and Android devices. You know, rural roadways are always busier this time of year with farm equipment, and because of the delayed harvest, many crews will be working later hours, raising concerns about safely sharing the road.
If you're coming up from behind one, don't get too close, because the closer you are to us, the less you can see around us, so that makes it hard to know when it is safe to pass.
Many machines only go speeds of 20 to 25 miles an hour, and that makes it tempting for drivers to want to pass. A reminder that is only legal in passing zones. As for equipment operators, make sure you have all of the proper signage and lighting. A few extra dollars on reflective tape or lights could save a life.